evening wherever you are. Hope you had a great weekend. I think it's actually Monday for everyone, so happy Monday. Anyway, we are here to review the ACP-520, the Confluence Org Admin. This is the last in our series of 8 around the 520. So it's going to be pretty open. I will talk about how to sign up for the exam and what to expect on Atlassian exams, but do need your questions to help guide what we would like to review. I've got some topics that I am finding confusing in my own review, so we'll start with those, but I really need y'all's help in figuring out what we'll be talking about. So if you don't have questions, please take a minute right now to think through what are the things you want to learn, or what are the topics or areas you really want to dig into. I'll give folks a couple of minutes to jump on in, and then we'll get started reviewing as much as we can about being an org admin in Atlassian Cloud, not Confluence Cloud, the whole thing. And I need to find some of our information. All right, folks. Just a quick poll question while we're waiting for folks to trickle on in this morning. Morning, John. Good to see you. Only one person has responded, but 100% of us are not quite ready yet. Now, I would probably also put myself in as a no. And that long good morning reminds me of Good Morning Vietnam, John. So I appreciate the good memory there. Rohit, welcome. Okay, we are going to get started, folks. Yeah, about 20 people. Perfect. Oh, and we'll get started as soon as my screen is showing the proper thing. I never feel ready for exams. Justin, I guess what's fair. What's stopping you there? Tushar, welcome. Yes, John, he was very, very good. Although he did destroy voice acting in terms of after Aladdin, apparently a lot of the professional voice actors couldn't find work because people just wanted the on-screen celebrities. Anyway, I digress. Quick introduction for those of you who may not know me. I'm Rob. Been working at Atlassian since about 2013, and I needed time to learn Atlassian stuff, which is why I do these study sessions. I also acknowledge that this stuff can be hard to learn, and so having more perspective and just one more person to help you understand what's happening can be very, very helpful. But I find taking these exams helps me, and I'll talk more about my why as we go, just round out my skills. So that's who I am, and that's why I'm here. Please use the chat, especially today. This is a review of the whole course. I'll do my best to cover a wide range of things, but I'm really reliant on all of you all to bring specific questions to help me understand what's going on or what you need help with. So please drop them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them as we go. I'll be spending a lot of time in an Atlassian Cloud instance, just showing us hands-on and then bouncing back and forth between Atlassian learning. I am doing this professionally, though, so if you haven't, please subscribe and please like the stream. Hit a little thumbs up. That helps other people find it, but also lets me know what you all need. And also check out for polls. I dropped one at the top. Are you ready for the exam? One of us is, and that's amazing, because that's one more than this morning. And that one is not me. Oof. I think what Justin here is referencing is the exam that I'll talk about as we go, how they can, they really do test your knowledge. Speaking of the exam, this is the breakdown. Now, I'll talk more about passing scores and how long we have and cost and all that stuff. Justin R., welcome. The Who are still touring. That's amazing. I saw Tommy with my dad, the one about the pinball player. It was amazing. Not played by The Who, but it was written by them. So consider this breakdown as you're considering how you're going to study. And I say that because 74% of the exam is just about organizations and users and groups. This doesn't mean you should ignore the other two sections, but it means that this is where the bulk of your time should be. It's also where the bulk of our time should be spent as admins. This is what Atlassian feels like we should be doing, understanding how organizations work, and then managing users and groups, which kind of makes sense because the org admin is really about maintaining the instance and users, not as much about configuring how the system works in that sense. This is really like the core admin, and that everything else is built around the structure that they provide, and mainly the users. And then how do they access things, and how is their licensing control, that kind of stuff. There are the other topics, of course. We'll touch on those briefly, but again, your main focus when you're studying, really put it on understanding what an organization is, how they're created, what happens when they're created, and then how users work. How can their accounts be deactivated, or what kind of access do they get? We talked about this a while back, probably more than 2 months now, but why are you choosing to do this is really important to understand. And there are many reasons why. I can get this poll out the way. I'll drop a quick poll just to help jog our memories. Gotta quickly type these things in here. Just why are you studying for this? For me, it's to expand my skills. Everything I've learned in most systems, not just Atlassian, has been by doing. So just kind of figuring things out. And that resulted in deeper skills in some areas and complete lack of knowledge in many, many others. For example, I've never been an org admin in a large organization. So I need to learn how this stuff works so I can better support my team, so I know how things operate, so I can help others out. I'm also just curious too. That's kind of my second knowledge. Excuse me. Ooh. But there's no wrong reason. So keep that in mind as well, but understand yours. This will help motivate you to study. It'll help motivate you when you get to the exam and you're staring at the screen. It'll help you remember why you're putting yourself through this. So take some time. It can help to write this down and put it on your monitor, put it at the top of your notebook, however you're studying. Formalize skills and level set your knowledge bar. Completely great reason. Chad's doing it for the fame and fortune, or used to be. And I assume you mean job security, Chad. Yeah. So again, this is something that it can help to share with others because then they can support you, and you can't just keep it to yourself though. But make sure you know what your why is. Why are you spending time to go do this thing? As I said, a quick agenda. We're going to review. Then we'll go into how to sign up for the exam. The review, I'll take us through some of the quick study guides in Atlassian, but also try and get hands-on to explain things as we go, but really reliant on this group. Morning, sir. No worries. Most reliant on all of you to drop your questions in or let me know what areas you really need focus on. So maybe I'll drop a poll on which area we want to dig into after folks keep answering why are we studying. Looks like most of us are looking to expand our skills, which is awesome. That's not a question we need. So, fortune and glory from Kythra. Perfect. The link that I'm dropping in the chat right now goes to the Cloud Org Admin certification page, and this is where everything lives. And just scrolling down, these are the exam breakdowns. But more on the exam, it's 3 hours long, and you have up to 65 questions. So when you go in and take this exam, you have 3 minutes per question. That doesn't seem like a lot of time, but it's a lot of time. And I'll keep coming back to this, but the questions will be set up in a multiple choice format. Usually there's 4 possible answers. 1 is correct. So you'll have up to 3 minutes to consider each question. I tend to go quick on these. I just finished the ACP-520 in under an hour, but that's just me. Please take time. Make sure you are comfortable with your answer because you get a lot of time, and you need a 62% to pass. So if we consider our breakdown, that means if you nail most of org at Atlassian orgs, most of user admins, you're most of the way there. And that's why the focus is on these 2 areas. Also, again, because there's going to be a lot, that's a lot of what you do in your day-to-day. Now, this next link, this download the PDF, will also be helpful. This is the official guidance from Atlassian on what's in the exam, or what are they going to ask you about. Now, the nice thing about this particular one, it's got all these links. So you can just click on Add a New Product, and that will take you to the support page where it will show you how that works. So this PDF link can also be very, very useful. So please make sure you're going there to check that out. Go back one. All right. I'm going to get rid of this poll about why are we studying, and then just see what we want to talk about. So I'll just put in, I get 4, so I get to put in, what area should we begin with? I'm just going to put in the 4 areas of the exam, and we'll vote and just see which ones we should focus on right now. And I don't get a vote because I can't click on the buttons. So unless you have specific questions, please take a minute and just pick one of those 4 areas, and we'll dig in more deeply. And while y'all are doing that, please remember to hit the like button if you like it, and the QR codes you see on your screen are other ways to help support me. Under my head, I have links to my learning courses. Many of those include a voucher for various exams. And way down on the bottom, you can become a channel member. And that gets you early access to videos and some other great perks. All right, looks like mostly Atlassian orgs. Starting to settle. I was afraid I would get a 4-way tie. Luckily, we did not. Okay. Atlassian organizations. Atlassian organizations are made when you make your instance. So when you first stand up an instance that is independent of everything, you get the organization. And it's possible to have an org without something in it. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. Like, you can't have an empty org. Now, within the org, you'll have sites. And this is the first bit of the first topic. Many places I have worked only have a single site. And this means it's simpler. I was going to say it doesn't mean too much. It just means we don't have a site admin. We don't have a breakdown at the site level. So many times you might be both an org and a site admin. Really, it's the product that we need to pay attention to. You can have one of each product in a site. And this is where, can I find it real quickly? Atlassian calls it like Woozlemania or something. Whoop, nope, those are all weird. Let's stay away from that. We can have multiple sites in one organization, Europe, North America, etc., and we can have different products within them. And this is one way to break up and split up our users or our information. So you might have one organization for your company, multiple sites, and those sites serve distinct purposes. But I can only have one version of Confluence in each site. I can only have one Jira in each site. And while I'm talking about Jira, Jira is a special use case. When you install Jira, you also get the Jira admin app. So keep in mind, when you get Jira, you'll see 2 things pop up. And then once you get your org admin panel. So this is the admin.atlassian.com, and this is where you can see and manage the whole shebang. So this is the org admin, and there's a special group created. If we go under my directory and my groups, another thing to keep in mind is this group is generated when you first turn on your org admins. You can't delete this, and it can't be set to a default group. So every other group you could delete. Every other group you can make a default group, except for org admin. You also always know there's at least one person in this group. So we'll talk about groups probably as we go. But the org admin group is always automatically created, and there's always one person in it, whoever made the org. So keep that in mind, as well as I've been studying that question seems to come up from different people and in different pop quizzes. So when you generate the organization, you get this group automatically. And this is what controls org admin access. It's that administrator level at the top. In this case, I'm the only person in it. Again, this is a demo box. but the org admin group doesn't necessarily have any access to the apps either. So something else that can differ based on your setup, you may not have access to Confluence or Jira or whatever as the org admin. It's possible to just be the org admin. And here is that special JQL Jira admin product. It's the only product that has this. Don't know why they do this. It makes our lives a little bit more fun. So just remembering that when I see questions around how many products are installed, or how many apps are installed, excuse me, if they have Jira, that means there's at least 2 products, because they'll have Jira and Jira admin. Manage and create sites. I love how it's understand the nuances of multiple sites and products. I'm not 100% sure what that means. However, if I open up my Rubik's Cube, these are all the various organizations I have, and you can see the site. Where is my friend? This one. So here's one site worth of things and all the products I have. And again, just one product per site. Sorry, Justin saw a question that instantly got deleted. Maybe there was a typo or something in there. All right. I assume you mean how many with JSM. Jira Service Management doesn't also include Jira Admin. So if we look at this list of products right here, I've got Loom, JSM, Jira, JQuil, and Jira Admin. I believe Jira Administration ties to Jira, but that's a good question. You got it. Yay. Everything I've seen explicitly states just Jira Service Management and then 2 for Jira. Although if anyone else on the call knows the exact answer to that, that would be helpful. Every demo instance I've set up either has both or just Jira. Excuse me. But as far as I can tell, it explicitly states 2 for Jira, 1 for JSM. I need to go write that down somewhere. How many apps for JSM? What I'll do is do my best to follow up in an email to this group, but also check us out in Discord. Assets isn't listed separately either. I haven't seen it listed. I wonder, I have a demo box, I think, that has assets. Let's go find out. You're seeing me jump between 2 demo boxes because I control one and the other I'm not an org admin in. I'm a user access admin, I think. So I'll see if we can find it here. Of course, there's a hyphen. No assets. So this particular demo box has assets. This one. Oh, that's in the sandbox. That was going to drive me nuts. Yeah, but it's not listed in here. Assets, I've noticed, Justin, is an odd one. Odd in my mind because it feels like a separate app, but it's not standalone. It is part of JSM. So every time I've thought about assets specifically, it's always been in the context of you're using Jira Service Management. So it's like, to me, it's more like a module of Jira Service Management, if that makes sense. So you won't see it broken out as a separate app, even if you have it, or even if you're using it. Granting product access. All right, this will be hard to talk about talking about users. Users for me are also confusing, determining when they're billable. So I'm going to quickly just grab our poll. Yeah, org advanced features. All right. All right, apps. So within our site will have apps. Now, in this case, I only have a single site. So I'm an org admin. I'm also effectively a site admin, but there's no breakdown because there's only one site. And I can see these apps and then I can go into manage them. So I'll pick on Confluence because that one's at the top. And here I can see the groups that define access to it. Now I've got things, a few default groups. So when we first get the product or app, and you're going to hear me mess up that terminology all the time, I believe on this exam you'll see the term product because it was before all the renaming, so just keep that in mind. But the term app is what we call these things now. When you install the app, you're going to get a set of groups automatically created. So here's a group called admins JQuil, guest JQuil. Pretty straightforward naming convention. It's just going to be name of app, group, type of group, and then name of instance. So this is a Confluence group for admins in the JQuil instance. Keep in mind the name of the group does not reflect what the group is. We are lucky and hope that it actually is the admins. We can briefly touch on it, Tushar, depending on what you're looking to learn. As I understand it, the exam doesn't dig too deep into Atlassian Guard, but we do have to understand some things like, billing and what it can do for us, like high-level features. But if you've got specific questions, please put them in here. I only have another 40 minutes to get through as much as possible. So these groups are automatically created, and you'll notice on the right, one, is it a default group, but two, what roles are included. And really, this is how we're going to be managing access to it. So once we've invited someone, once they've consumed a license, and keep in mind, as soon as you invite someone, the license can be consumed. So if they're invited to an app, license is consumed immediately, even if they haven't accepted. We're not going to dig too deep into Guard setup, Tushar. If there's specific questions about it, I can dig into it. Again, and I'm saying that because this particular exam, based on everything I've seen, doesn't get too deep into configuring Guard. It's more about just understanding what it can do, and particularly billing they like to pick on. So here I can just pick which role these people get in the app. Now you'll notice that the roles are just user app admin and user access admin. I can't give someone like space administrator from here or project admin from here. Again, the org admin is concerned with the overall access, and the overall access just can be user. And so we as org admins have to remember and understand that there is a different set of permissions entirely once you are a user in the app. Now there is the app admin level, and this is administrative access to the app itself. So in Jira, this would be configuring workflows. In Confluence, this would be setting a instance-wide banner. And then there's a user access admin. This is the third flavor of admin that allows you to access users and groups just for this app. So we can, as org admins, split out the abilities to control apps. In particularly large orgs, this can be useful. Or if you have like a tier 1 team who you trust to handle user access, you could provide this and let them then handle things like these groups and roles, so you don't need to spend your time doing it. We can do things like dig into the group, see who's in it. This is a very similar set of information. And then we've got the grant access. I'm kind of bleeding into groups here from orgs, but again, the name of the group isn't meaningless, but it's pretty meaningless because the underlying group can do different things. In this case, I have a group called Confluence Admin, and I could give them JSM access as well with this. So keep in mind that the name of the group doesn't tell you anything about the group with a single exception, and that's the org admin group. That one we can't delete, can't make default, and gives org admin access. Every other group is just a meaningless set of numbers and letters that hopefully does what it says on the sticker. So that's providing product access. And again, I'm going to the apps menu for that, and then managing the various apps. Access requests. Depending on how we're set up, this can be challenging. And this is a slightly different UI than I have been used to in the past. I'll go back to here. We have this concept of managed accounts. Let me just drop this question in here. And this will be a 1 to a 4. 1 will be not a lot, and 4 will be very or a lot comfortable, I guess. And while you're answering that, take a minute to hit the like button. Got about 40 folks, about 5 likes, which is amazing. But more likes the merrier. Not a lot. I will be honest, I was very much not a lot when I started this thing. Because the term just kind of, it didn't scare me, it just confused the heck out of me. And this is an important split we have to remember with access. In Atlassian, we have our user access. So here, Confluence guest 13 has been invited. And that's my, I forget the exact term now. It just fell right out of my head. That's my account with, or my, someone help me out here. I can't talk good. I'll back up. The managed account refers to my Atlassian account. So when I go to log into, say, community, and I hit login, this ties into an account I have with Atlassian. So this is even bigger than my org. So if you see me on Atlassian community in the forums typing in stuff, this account is my Atlassian account. You have to have an Atlassian account to get into cloud. So in order to do that, you have to have one of these. Now, there's this thing called a managed account, which lets the org admin control certain aspects of the account. For example, if I have google.com, if I own google.com, I can manage all the Atlassian accounts of people from google.com who use my Atlassian products. And so that's the difference. You could have unmanaged accounts, and this is where what you're seeing here in these examples, like I haven't set this up. We have to take extra steps to prove we own google.com or heen.tech or whatever the domain is. But that then gives us more control over the Atlassian accounts. We can do things like change names or emails or make them match things. So when we see managed accounts, we need to remember there's some additional things that happen to that. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. Awesome. It does require to have verified domains. So we have to go through a couple of hoops to confirm we have this. These kind of questions may show up. There's something called a DNS record, domain name service, is what it stands for. If you see questions relating to having problems setting up managed accounts, having problems verifying domains, it can be because that DNS step was missing. So as an org admin, we need to verify these domains through this process. We might not be able to do this ourselves. We might have to work with someone from our marketing team or something else. Morning, Frank. No worries. Glad you could make it. I'm just talking about managed accounts a bit. So again, the managed account refers to an Atlassian account, which you have to have in order to get into Atlassian cloud products. I forget when I first did this because I've been using Atlassian Cloud for so long, but it's this profile we get when we log in, or that account that you get. The account can be managed by an org admin if the domain has been verified. This concept confused me, so drop questions around, what specifically you need in there. Org admins do have additional access and control over managed accounts. They can edit them. They can delete and deactivate. Org admins cannot delete a non-managed account. So that's another important thing we have to know about. If I log into, I'm picking on Google a lot today, I don't know why. If I log into Google and it's not a managed account, if it's not under their verified domain, that org admin will see that I'm in there, but they cannot delete my account. Only I can do that. So that's another thing that popped out as I was studying. I see most of us are not very comfortable. A plurality, 33%. But some of us are. For the folks who are very comfortable, what would be some tips or ideas that folks should know or understand about managed accounts that help you? So curious if you can share your knowledge a bit in terms of hey, these are managed accounts and this can help you learn more about them. Popping back up. All right, access requests is another big thing. Again, depending on how we're set up. Now, in order to give someone access, we have some different options we can configure. We can invite people directly. So we can invite individuals, and you'll notice I can set up the type of access I want to send in the invite. So as org admins, I can just click and do that. Oh, and I haven't noticed. Oh, and we can preset them to a group. That's kind of neat. I haven't clicked on this button before. All I did is click on View More Options, and we can also drop them into a group membership, which is nice. But app admins can directly invite someone. We can also approve existing requests. Now, I don't have any existing requests here. But I can go into my user access settings and control how we can allow people to get access. So this is something that as admins we need to be very careful of or be very aware of. All right, managed accounts would be an area we should all study. I'm going to drop another question. Is similar, how familiar are you? Access requests. And the same 4-point scale. 1 is not very. 4 is very. So interesting use case, old org and IDP managed users. Oh, good luck with that, Frank. What was I babbling about? User invites is the next area. Next area that confused me. You have to already have app access to do an invite. But note that when the invite is sent, we as admins have no way of knowing if the email it was sent to is legit. And the person who's being invited could effectively be anyone as far as I understand it. And here we can control how do those invites work. I'll zoom in on this. We can allow anyone to invite anyone. Probably don't want to do this, if only because then anyone can be invited without an approval step. Next, we can only invite through approved domains. So, @google.com can invite other people from @google.com, but again, no approval. Next, we've got an approval step. So you can request access, but the org admin has to approve. This one for me is probably one of the more common ones, just because the org admin gets to sit there and say, hey, you get in, you don't. And this controls our billing. So that's another big theme we're going to see managing our org. We as the admins control billing. So something to please keep in mind when you're approving folks, you're incrementing up the license count. You can also just not allow people to invite. This is another common thing I've seen. Typically in the bigger orgs I work in, I believe it's set up to don't allow because it's just everyone who works at google.com gets access. That kind of solves the problem. Justin's saying getting hands-on really helps. The toughest part, just because you're licensed doesn't mean you have access. Yes. So if we go back really quickly to my, what was it under apps? So when we consider these roles we give someone in an app, for example, if we get someone who joins Confluence users JQuil, all that's giving them is user access, the ability to get into our Confluence. It's not necessarily saying you can see anything within it or you can see certain things. And the same is true for Jira. I can have a Jira group called Jira users JQuil, and all that's saying is you get access to Jira. It's not saying you get access to particular projects. It is possible that this particular group, Confluence JQuil users, also happens to give access. But just because someone has the role of user or the role of app admin in the org admin panel does not mean they can do any specific thing in the product except open it. Frank, everyone consumes a license. Mostly true. It's a good joke because if you've invited someone and if they have product access, that consumes a license. If the account is suspended or if they do not have a product, it does not consume a license. So keep that in mind. As soon as you hit invite and select an app to give them, that's consuming a license. Another crazy thing about that, if you send it to a non-existent email, that will also consume a license. So as soon as you hit invite, as soon as we go in to add someone, like if I go in and invite this email, this can count as a license consumption. So please keep in mind as you're inviting folks, and this shows up in a lot of the sample questions that Atlassian has, understanding who gets a license and how is it consumed. For example, this top line right here, Confluence Guest 13, might be consuming a license because they've been invited. And maybe I need to do something about that, just to make sure I'm not paying for this non-existent person who I've just made up. And most of us are fairly familiar with app access requests. All right. Go back to my approvals. User access settings. We can set the default permissions. Again, require admin, most common. But you'll notice under my apps, I have app-specific ones I can use. So I can also change that by each app if I want. There are use cases where you want to allow invitations, or you want to change these. So just a heads up, depending on how you're set up, that can work. Frank is now making that gibberish Gmail account that I created. I don't even know if that's a valid account because it had a lot of special characters, but let me know how that goes, Frank. All right, folks, more invitee stuff. We can have an invitation link. Keep in mind that it tells you right here, but these do not require admin approval when someone clicks on them. So if I generate this link and give it to you, you can just get access. Again, in very large orgs, may not make sense to flip this on because you'll have other ways of controlling access to the app. You'll have a group membership. You'll have something that's automated, hopefully. The use case that shows up in the study materials from Atlassian, you're an admin in a smaller group. You want to take a vacation, so you flip this on. And then when you come back, you flip it off. So you can kind of delegate access using this particular setting. And this big, long link is unique. Notice it has a 1-month expiration, so these automatically expire. And you can also regenerate if you need a new one. And then as soon as you turn it off, it stops working. So that's another way to give access. Justin, I believe they also have to have an app. So if you just invite them and don't give them an app, no license consumption. It's as soon as the... Oh, Preetha, sorry, I just saw that. As soon as they are invited. So if I send this person, Confluence Guest 13, they have been invited. If they also have app access, that will cost me. You'll notice it says they haven't accepted. That does not matter in terms of consuming the license. So this person's been invited. If they also have been given an app, money. That sounded funny. If they also have an app, this person will be taking up a license. If they are suspended, so if I suspend their access, they do not consume a license. However, that also means that they can't access anything. While I'm talking about it, if I unsuspend this person, you can restore access. That puts them back in all the groups they had. If they were an org admin, they get org admin again. So you're basically just pausing their ability to access things. You're not like revoking anything particular. Christopher, restrict users from moving status columns on a project's board. That's not something an org admin can do. That is a particular permission in Jira. And that's actually a great question, Christopher, because when we think of what can we as org admins do, we can't do everything. I, as the org admin, am responsible mainly for billing and like overall access and overall security. I am not responsible for what people can do in the apps I maintain. So these apps here, unless I also happen to have that permission, Christopher, I can't access. I can't touch Confluence or Jira or Loom. I'm reliant on the project admins or the Jira admin within to do that. So this might also be a question you get. If you see a questions like Christopher's, how does an org admin manage, board access? You don't. I actually got, specifically for boards, Christopher, I'm working on a different certification training on Fridays. I'll drop a link in here for you. But also jump into our Discord community where folks can help you out with that specific question. Not saying I don't want to help you, but I do need to focus just on the org admin stuff right now. So I'll get you some links so you can see that. But remember, when you see questions around a specific app, how do I do blank in an app? How do I set up blank in an app? The answer is going to be you as the org admin might not be able to. And here is a link to specifically boards. Meme tuber, love the name. Billing and domain claiming is something only org admins can do. Yep. By domain claiming, I assume you mean, verifying domains. Okay, about 18 minutes. I do want to talk about registering for the exam, but what other questions do y'all have? We focused mainly on users and orgs right now, which is perfect, because again, that's something like 74% of our exam. While we're staring at this screen, I'm under apps. Sites are listed. I only have a single site in this org, so there's not much to see in here. But you can have site admins. So as an org admin, you manage the site admins. So you could split it off and say, hey, MemeTuber, you can manage the site JQuil. Hey, Frank, you manage this other site for me. That gives them the ability to manage high-level access to the apps they're in, but site admins don't do billing. Site admins can't necessarily touch groups. Frank is saying that user access admins are another kind of admin. They can't do policies, billing, etc., but they can help with app assignments. So again, the name on that one to me makes the most sense. Access admin helps with user access. The site admin org admin split for me was kind of hard, but just keep in mind the site admin scope is limited just to the site that they're working in. They can't move cross-site and they can't do things that impact the whole org like touch guard or touch other things. While I'm talking about guard, before I flip over to before I flip over to the exam, guard is billed across your domain, and it's just by user. So it's a separate SKU, separate billing. I think we had one entire section that covered guard. I'll drop this link so you'll have a lot more information. If you're on an enterprise product, you get standard for free. It's included. Guard, annoyingly, is what controls SSO. So that's one annoyance maybe we have. Preetha, do you have links, sites or links to practice exam questions? Frank, thank you for jumping in there. You can get a free account, Preetha, to play with the admin panel. If your question is, do I, Rob, have practice exams? Not quite yet. It's something I'm working on. I'm working on building out as many of these as I can, as many training courses. The link under my head will take you here to this site. And this is where I'll be posting them. But right now, I don't have a course or exams for the 520. It's something I'm working on. And that's a great segue. This is another way to help support me. I'm doing this professionally. I'll keep making more and more of these courses to cover exams and to cover other Atlassian-related topics. When I have one ready for the 520, you'll find it here, though. It does not quite yet exist. Keep an eye on billable users for Guard. We ran out faster than we thought we would. Yes. Do they tell us? Excuse me. While we're looking at billing for Guard, the first question under their Get More Details is how it works for free products. It counts. And this is another thing as org admins we need to be aware of. Our teams can go in and set up their own sites. So it's very, very common for someone to accidentally go in and make a new Jira instance in your org. If it's a managed account, you'll be able to see that as the app admin. So you'll get this discovered apps. And this is where managing accounts is really important, because if John goes off and makes a new Confluence app, I'll see that as the as the org admin. And that's where I can see it under discovered apps. So it'll actively monitor and tell me, hey, one of your managed accounts is running around setting up new Confluence instances. Maybe you want to go talk to them. But that's another way to help keep track of cost and the billable users. All right, folks, I'm going to transition to talking about the exam. Keep the questions coming. Jump into Discord for continued chat. I want to make sure you have support. These topics are confusing because, one, not many people need to know about them. And two, they don't come up very often. So unless you're doing this a lot, it's a skill, it's something that you practice, it can be very easy to forget or lose the habit. So please keep engaging. At John's point, get a demo box and just poke around in it. Or if you know someone at work who can help you figure it out, check that out as well. I'm going to back up. I am back on the org admin official site. Justin saying Trello usually blows up Guard if you're claiming the domain. Yes. I understand how it happens. People are just being helpful, or they don't understand, but they don't understand the implication. And I kind of would like to see more controls on the Atlassian side of that. All right. When you're ready to when you're ready to take the exam, what I recommend doing, give yourself, depending on how comfortable you are, 2 to 4 weeks between today and the day you take it. So if I wanted to take the exam right now, I would say, okay, I'll take it on October 8th. I'll just pick a date and I'll schedule it. And that gives me a month or 2 or 3 weeks to really dig in. To schedule it, we just click on the schedule exam. I personally very much don't like this particular site. This is not run by Atlassian. It's a third party that handles certifications. But we just go over to schedule and test online. Now you have 2 options to taking the exam: in person or at home. I'd like to do them at home. Some people find that annoying. Now, if you do it at home, you have to have a quiet room that no one will interrupt you in. No pets, no kids, no family members. And it has to be completely clear. So I have to clean off my whole desk, take all the stuff down that you can't see, and then you'll be proctored. So someone will be watching you through the webcam. They'll ask you to show the whole room. You can't have anything on your desk, no writing implements. And it's to make sure, we're honest and not cheating, which I get. It can be annoying, though, because if your internet flickers or if the camera dies, you'll be kicked out. You'll have to go back in and do that all again. For me, I prefer to use a laptop to do that. I find it better because if I use this camera, the camera can just flicker off for a second and then the connection drops. So there can be technical challenges doing it at home. The other disadvantage of doing it at home is you can't get up and use the restroom. So on a 3-hour exam, you may want to go take that in person because you may want to step out and use the bathroom. Yes, you cannot cover your mouth and you cannot move your lips while you're at home. And again, that's to help ensure we're not cheating or reading answers off to someone. So I understand why it's happening, but I'll sit like this sometimes, and the proctor will pause the exam and say, I'm very sorry, you can't cover your mouth. So there are some annoyances. Every time I do it, I'm like, oh, God, grumbling. But for me, doing it at home, that's correct, Preetha. You cannot read the question out loud. You can't even do this. like just mouth the words, they'll call you on it. That said, that annoyance for me is worth it. The nearest exam center where I do it in person is like a 20-30 minute drive for me. So for me, I'm saving more time and annoyance by doing it at home. What I'll show you is how to schedule it at home, and I'm doing that because I think my driver's license is still stored in here. I'll just click New Booking under Schedule, and you'll just get a list of every exam. So I'll find the 520, and then you'll get this big long page of FAQs, and this is all kind of standard stuff. You can bring a paper dictionary and a clear bottle of water. Frank is saying if your connection drops off at home, you can reconnect. You can, but you got to go through the security check again, which is annoying. Whoops. I just pushed some button there. All right. Oh, I've already booked for that one. Heh. I've done most of these. Here we go. Loom. I haven't done Loom. You'll see the fee. The 520 is $249. So this is something, if you are working at a company, talk to your manager or L&D team. Sometimes there's a stipend. They can help you out with that. Keep in mind, if you cancel or if you fail to pass, you'll lose the fee. So it's something like within 48 hours, you can't reschedule. They do offer to, it's like I think $30 as a security to take it again. So I'll click on-site. Now the disadvantage of on-site is you have to go on-site. So you have to find a testing center. And this is where for me, I don't like going on-site because I have to drive an hour total, and I'd rather spend that time not stuck in my car. It's also dependent, both of them are dependent on proctor availability. So even though it is online, you might not be able to take it any day and any time. They'll just give you a list. Come on, cert metrics. There we go. So if I live in Beverly Hills, I can just do a quick search for which centers are nearby. Preetha, are there discount coupons? I'm not aware of any for this one. What I'm trying to do is build out full-length courses, again, over on learn.heen.tech. The full-length courses you find here, I'm doing my best to include a certification voucher coupon. So for example, if you buy this 220 course, it includes a single voucher to try to take the exam. Or if you get this 900, a single voucher to take the exam. From time to time, there are other ways to get free vouchers. For example, if you end up going to one of Atlassian's big conferences, sometimes they have events where you can get free ones. But I haven't seen too much in the way of discounts on them, unfortunately. I would just pick a time. Sure, I'll show up at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. And this is where I set in all my billing information. So from here, I would just continue through, give them my address, other information, and then pay at the end. And then I get a confirmation. Again, I prefer to schedule these out 2 to 4 weeks in advance to give me plenty of time to prepare and make sure I'm ready. So I would schedule this, if I were really taking it, sometime in October. Now, once you've scheduled it, yes, it is Preetha, especially the professional, the ACP level. The assumption is they're longer, more in-depth because we're admins, but also hopefully the companies we're working for are willing to put up some cash to help us out, hopefully. And that's if we have a job, right? After you've done that, come back to this site, the org admin site, and under start prepping for free, there is a great exam cramming section. If you go to the bottom, these certification prep resources under Learn More. So this contains another 4 or 5 modules that will walk you through things that they think you should know. I'm going through this several times. It'll give you hints like, hey, remember about these sites. Oops, come back. Or remember how to manage product access. And it'll give you some hints and ideas around the exam. The bottom, and Preetha, this might be specifically for you, includes 8 to 10 sample questions. So these questions will be similar to, but not identical to what you get on the exam. But they're a great way to test. If you go through these sample questions and you do very, very well, that might indicate, hey, you're getting ready for the exam. If you take these and you can't get all of them off the top of your head, that's okay too, but it just helps you understand what to study. It does also give you immediate feedback on what's correct, what isn't, and why. Even if you get it right, read through these, because the incorrect reasons can be very, very useful. They'll help jog your memory. They'll help you learn a bit more. So take your time going through these. Again, even if you can nail them all in your sleep, take time to read and understand, why are the false ones, why are the incorrect answers incorrect? Because the mechanics of being an org admin can be confusing and different and non-intuitive. So please keep that in mind. There is a section, Tushar, on Atlassian Guard. So just a heads up, you'll get some sample questions in here, but also another another section of information on Guard itself. All right, folks, we're pretty much wrapped up. I'm going to drop a quick poll. Just, was this series helpful? We did about 8 weeks with the 520. This QR code will take you to a specific Google form I've set up, just asking for your feedback. Let me know what works. Let me know what doesn't work. Let me know what else you want to learn. Please help me make this a better learning experience for everyone. And this form can be anonymous. You don't have to tell me who you are in there. So, I do my best to pay attention to and incorporate what I learned from these. But I would love a moment of your time just to let me know what you think. Also, this link will take you to my Confluence course. This is for the ACP-520, and this is the next ACP I'll be doing. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but this one does include the certification voucher. So if you pass this course, if you complete the whole thing in the practice exams, let me know and I'll send you a cert voucher to help you out. Otherwise, ACP-520 is next. It's next Tuesday. So I'm taking next Monday off. Next Tuesday, we're starting 220. And then after that, we'll be back to Mondays. So be on the lookout for that. Justin, you're very welcome, my friend. I've got some travel coming up in October, so the schedule will be a bit disjointed, but we'll be back to Mondays on the ACP. Between now and then on the 520, join us in Discord. Keep asking your questions. Tushar, jump in there on Guard. Preetha, if you want, pop in there on, tips taking the exam, that kind of stuff. But there's going to be continued discussion on the 520 and other topics around Atlassian products, and also just random things like people's cats. But definitely study on your own. Make time to go in and play with this. Get hands-on. Challenge yourself. I can't say attend next week's section because the 520 is done. But you're all welcome. Thank you all for joining me on this. I learned a lot about being an org admin. Again, I hadn't done it before, so I wouldn't have done this without all of you joining in and helping keep me honest. And that concludes 520. I will keep this open for just a moment, and then I've got to jump to an exciting work call. If you like this, though, please hit the like button. About 30 folks, 8 likes. Absolutely love that. Otherwise, come be annoyed by my randomness. Not annoying at all, Justin. It's refreshing. But thank you all for learning with me, and I hope to see you all in the 220 again starting next Tuesday, and then continuing on Mondays after that. Oh, and I'll do the stereotypical like and subscribe. Preetha, you're welcome. Glad you're here. Chad, thank you. Or you're welcome. Frank, always good to have you in here. Frank, I'm going to get through all of them. I just finished the second one, 420, then 520, 220's next. And probably 120 after that, I think. But we'll see what happens. Yordanka, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. All right, folks, have a great week wherever you are. Hit the like button. If you haven't, if you're watching this recording, drop a comment. Kythra, I'm not sure how to respond to a cat, but thank you. Meow. Otherwise, I'll see y'all again soon.